So people ask me all the time, what is God or whatever, what I think God is. God is the truest identity in your body. The truest identity in you is the truest presence. That's God. That's what God is. God is in everything. God is everything, however you want to look at it. But you have a bunch of identities that might be in you. You could say, I'm this person, I'm I'm an Aquarius, uh, I'm short, I'm sick, I'm fat. These is all identities. Again, when you're talking to yourself and you're encapsulating your identity by saying I'm this, like you wouldn't say I'm diabetes, but people say I'm sick, so that you're creating that identity. When you say I'm sick, I'm fat, I'm short, I'm tall, I'm Brad, whatever whatever it is, whatever that is, whatever you're encapsulating your identity into, that's a false self. Again, it's a self in general. The more selfless you are, the more you can actually realize the true presence. So the true identity, the cultivation of the connection with the body and that true identity comes through the breath. And the more, like I was saying in the last video, the more that you are misaligned with the breath, then you procreate from a broken place. And then your progeny, your kids and kids, they're coming from a more broken place. And that trajectory is set. That spiritual algorithm, that spiritual trajectory is set. So then you're in a sunken place when you reincarnate through your kids. That's the whole sunken place thing. Is you're in your body, you're buried in your body, you're knocked in. You never get knocked out, you get knocked in. And again, with psychedelics and stuff like that, and people say, I left my body. Like, no, you just left the throne of your body. Now you're in your toe or somewhere like that. You're thinking that you're in the far reaches of space. The body and the cosmic body is the entire body. The body, there's no separation. It's only oneness. So you're never out of the body. The body is everything. The body is the universe. It's one verse. So when you're not in the throne of the body, you're in the sunken place. So when you recreate from a broken template, then your son creates from a broken template, and they can take, because you created a pattern, you set the pattern, you set the tone, you set the algorithm. And the more that you do that, the more that you create a deeper sunken place as you reincarnate. Because again, like I was saying, when you go to sleep in this life, you're waking up in your kids, or you're waking up in your grandfather's father's father. However you want to look at it. The past and the future are one. So the more that you are not in alignment with the breath is infinity. The more that you're not in alignment with the breath, the more that you're in a sunken place in your own body and your what they call NPCs, non-player character. You're just not in alignment. You're not at the throne. If you're not in the throne of the body in alignment with the breath, then you're gonna perceive life from a lower chakra place. What they call, you're living in your lower chakras or whatever you want to call that. That means you're looking. That's like if you're in a well, in a sunken place, looking up and out instead of being at the throne, being at the pineal, being at that place, having that completely open when at will. Anybody that's done DMT, they know, they're aware of that. They know when you can see sound and you can see smells, when you start to change that channel between being this persona and being pure consciousness between channels, in the static, and then getting into the next channel. People, anybody that's done DMT has experienced this. Anybody that's done a lot of breath work has experienced this. It's when you're in alignment with a body, when the body is in alignment with the breath, then you're on the throne. You're at the seat of consciousness, or the seat of the soul, whatever you want to call that. So that's what God is the alignment with that truest presence, with the truth. And in that process of truth comes the purge of everything that isn't true. And the way that you maintain that is through the breath and the awareness of the breath. All babies are born breathing from their diaphragms. They are the Tao. If they have parents that are more respectful of the breath, the baby will be doing less temper tantrums, because the The parents will realize I can't be, spiking my child's blood sugar, because then they're just gonna have temperature tantrums, and that just comes with spiking the child's blood sugar, making them bitter early, giving them sweetness, they become bitter. The more that you crave sweetness, the more that you're lacking affection, the more bitter you really are. So it's all just coming down to the breath, man. The more that you're in alignment with the breath, the more that you have less of an opinion. If you're in that place where you're opinionless, you can navigate life a lot better. If you're not attached to the human opinion, because bitter isn't better than sweet, sweet isn't better than bitter, sour, there's no better. That's all human opinion. The only way that you can transcend that is through the breath. Through alignment with the breath, you can see where things are coming from. You can see you're slowing your heart rate down, then you're slowing your thought rate down, because the breath is regulating the thoughts are regulating the emotions, and then it's just a wheel, it's a cycle. So people that are identifying with their thought, identifying with the body mind, they're going to constantly identify with limitation. Because again, the body is the mind in 3D. The mind is the body in another dimension, however you want to look at it. But the observer is ineffable. The observer is just observing. It's just observing. And the more that you are in alignment with the breath, the more that you stay in that observer place. And then you can move from the place of least internal resistance. The path of least resistance, internal resistance. If the whole body is inhabited, then you can you will stay navigating from that, like wherever is the least internal resistance, whatever options that you think that you have. There's only one path really, but whatever options that you think that you have, whatever ones create the least amount of internal resistance are the ones that are in alignment with the breath. And the more that you're making movements and suppressing the internal resistance and making those mechanical stimulated movements, the more that you require stimulation, the more that you're going to need sugar. So yeah, when people say, I need this, I need that, and I need this, that, and the third, you are right from that identity that you have. That you're identifying with a limitation that requires fuel. A limitation is a parasite. A parasite is ultimately a middleman between you and your breath and God. So the more that you identify with a limitation, with a concept, and you create an identity that is anything other than ineffable, the more that you're going to have to fuel the concept, fuel that parasite. Everybody's acting. People say actor-based reality. Everybody's acting. Everybody is acting at some level. It's an actor. Yeah, it's an actor-based reality. So when you realize that, the more that people act, the more that people are characters. They have character. The more that you act, the more that you have to fuel the character. The more that you have to feed the parasites in order to play the game. The more that you stop playing the games, you stop playing yourself, and you're playing yourself. You're disrespecting yourself, and also you're playing yourself because you're not yourself. You're playing the role. You're not that. There is no self or other. There's only oneness. There is no self. There's really only oneness. Like me, I'm talking to myself ultimately always, because talking to and for myself, but there's no separation. There's only oneness. Ultimately, the only people that can hear me are me. The people that can receive me are me. The people that can receive me are cells in this body. So there's never been any separation. So that's really about it, man. It's just the alignment with the breath. And the more that you're in alignment with the breath, the more impossible it is to make decisions from a false self. It's just impossible. It becomes increasingly impossible the more that you stay in alignment with the breath. The more that you're going vegan, you're getting closer to the breath. You're liberating cells, they're breathing more. And then you'll get to the point where you're consciously breathing more. Your cells are all breathing, and then now you're getting in on the show too. Now you're consciously breathing. Now you're a cell that is breathing with the rest of the cells, and the oneness is perceived in all your movements. And then you have inspired aligned movements instead of trying. The more that you're trying, the more that you do and want to do, the more that you suffer. The more that you realize and accept, the more that you maintain the peace. And the only way that you will do that is through respecting the breath. It's all about respect. That's really about it, man. It's just the breath. It's a breath acceptance and breath respecting. It's not trying to breathe. I'm not telling people to force the breath work. I'm just saying that if you take one step toward it, it takes two towards you. Then you want to do it more and more. Your body wants to do it. You just have to expose yourself to it. That's really about it. But you already, it's a remembering thing. Because again, you were born breathing this way. It's how you breathe as a baby. And when you die, you wake up from a dream where you died. But if you die and you wake up from a dream where you died and you're now in a baby body, you can't communicate that dream to yourself and others the way you would like now if you woke up from a dream where you died. So again, there's nothing to fear here. But the more that you stay in alignment with the breath, the more that you can merge the elder you and the infant you and experience infinity by staying an infant always, even as an elder. The Lao Tzu, the old boy. Lao Tzu means old boy. Is the paradox of maintaining your infinity through the maturization process. And the way that you do that is through the realizing the breath, which is really the true you. It's the abstract. It's ineffable. You don't see it, but you know it's there. It's the true presence. With consciousness comes breath. So without it, no consciousness. The consciousness and breath can't be separated. They are the carriers of each other. So there's no separation. The more that you separate, the more that you create limits. And the more that you create limits, the more you're separated in your own body. And then you're not inhabiting the whole body. Then you're inviting parasites. Then the parasites create parasites. Again, the copies making copies. The parasites making colonies inside the body, colonizing your body. It's the same process on the inside and on the outside.